welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special guest. Tiffany from the Asian Girl Squad podcast is here with us.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How's everything?
Good. I wish my other two counterparts were here, Erica and Tiff.
Yes,
shout another out. Tiffany.
Yes, we'll have you guys on when you all come out here together, for sure. Just
and when you come visit us in Boston.
Yes,
right.
yes.
So how's it been in California, first off? You've
Look
been
at
here
my
like
shoulders.
a week.
I know.
You're nice and tan.
The sun out here does not play.
I know. And I lost my sunscreen along the way. I don't know where I am, so I'm burning. So it's hot.
You've been like all over California.
Yeah.
I haven't even been all over California yet.
Right.
I started off in San Francisco about a week ago. I just thought of that. What is that song we were just talking about, Fetty Wap? About a week ago.
Trap Queen?
Is that what he says?
Yeah, that's Young M.A.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay.
But yeah, I started off in San Francisco. And
Oh wait, I'm bugging out. I'm sorry. That was Bobby Shmurda about a week ago.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We just
Music
woke up.
snobs out here. We have to get it exactly right.
But yeah, I went there, and then I went to San Diego, and then now I'm in LA. So I'm really excited to be here with y'all and talk about.
Yeah, I'm happy to have
things.
you on.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a solo episode this week, but you were out here, so he was like, let's get her on. And yeah, I checked out your podcast yesterday and I loved it. Like, I think you guys are such a great crew together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love them.
And the other Tiffany, I think she's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, not in just in like a way, she's just so like herself. She just says whatever like she feels, and I don't know, she just has a funny personality. I love it.
Yeah, I actually just texted her. I was like, she thinks you're funny, and she's like, who, me? Yeah, but she is funny.
She
like,
is.
We all have.
I loved the culture shock episode.
Oh, about how she had culture shock about eating pizza.
No, like all different things. She was like, yeah, when I came here, everybody was so tall and like just like so many things, and it's like, wow, like that must be crazy to like experience that culture shock. Like just hearing about it, I'm like, wow, like so different.
Absolutely, it's so different. Like when we go to a different country, it's like the same thing for us. Like,
I
had culture shock when I went to Asia. Like right immediately off the plane, like it smelled different. Like people were talking different, and I'm like, I don't think I can do this. But once you get like kind of acclimated, you're good.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's fun to explore.
I'm gonna move the mic up a little closer to you. But okay, talk about that a little bit. How old were you when you first went back to China? Or were you born here?
Yeah, I was born here, so I'm an ABC, an American-born Chinese. I went back when I was 5 for my aunt's wedding, but I didn't remember anything because I was 5. So the first time I actually went and can remember stuff was when I was 20, and it wasn't even like I was going on vacation. I was moving there, and I lived there for a while. I lived in Shanghai, but that was my first time going. And I remember before I actually settled down to where I am, I did a tour of China. So I went to a bunch of different cities, and I was traveling with a bunch of other white people, and I was the only Asian person in the group. And they looked at me like I was the translator. But then when we went to like clubs and stuff, like we were treated like celebrities, and they just thought like, oh my God, you got blue eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah.
Well, not me, but like the people that I was with, and they would just want to take pictures all the time. Like they they would be like, oh my God, can we take pictures with you? And then when I moved to like Shanghai, I was with a lot of African people actually, and we would walk around and people would be like, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and they would think they were that. We could not go anywhere without having people. Is there
not like a lot of tourists that go to Shanghai, or?
Yeah, at that time when I went, I think this was back in 2013, it was kind of like up and coming. Yeah. It wasn't like Hong Kong is like where my family is from, and it's very like New York-y, right? Whereas like Shanghai was just kind of like developing to become a little bit more modern. So when people went to like touristy spots, they would just think that, they didn't know. So they were like, oh my God, that's Kobe Bryant. That's LeBron James. Like they just see a tall African person, so they don't know.
That's so funny.
Yeah, well, I kind of had a similar experience in Japan where, just being a tall black person is like, let's take a picture. Like, that's enough of a reason because you're scarce enough over there. But I wanted to talk about your podcast and, in your words, like what it's about and why you decided to start it.
Yeah, so me and two of my best friends, Erica and Tiffany, we all have different backgrounds, but we're all Cantonese. We're all Cantonese Chinese. And we were having conversations, and our viewpoints are so different. And I was like, I can't believe we have such different viewpoints, but we're all friends. Like, we get along so well. Like, Tiffany was born in Hong Kong, and she didn't come here until she was like in her 20s. And then Erica was also born in Boston, but she grew up in the city, and I was born here and I grew up in the suburbs. So we all have very different backgrounds, but we all ended up going to UMass Amherst. But I didn't meet Tiff until after I graduated at work. And so we kind of just hit it off, and we were having these conversations anyways. So we're like, I wonder if other people listen or have the same viewpoints as us. So it's not, I don't think we necessarily do it for like views or likes or anything. It's more like our own personal growth. Like we've started this since November, and I have learned so much about these girls that make me like love them even more. And it's just so beautiful to kind of feel like fully immersed in your culture. And I'm obviously not like an advocate, but I'm definitely a supporter, and I'm not an expert at it either. But it's just like so interesting learning about my journey, because I was not like that when I was growing up. If you listen to the podcast, you find out that I have like this huge conflict about who I was. I did not accept myself until, I honestly say I didn't really accept myself until after I graduated from college. I went to China like right after, and I still was not really like keen on like experiencing myself like that. And it was when like Erica and Tiff, like I see how much they love being who they are, that I'm like, why am I like gonna limit myself from doing that? So that's where it kind of really started.
That's amazing. And like that's something a lot of people are still working on. So the fact that two of your best friends were already on that, that's like more inspiring for you to be on the same wave, you know? And like people always, like everybody, a lot of people are still finding themselves, and like they won't find themselves or just accept who they are ever. Some people, you know, like it's something like a lot of people struggle with, and it's beautiful to like really find yourself and learn more about yourself, and just be more accepting, and like put less stress and pressure on yourself all the time, and just be like, this is me. Like, embrace it.
Love yourself.
Love yourself. Really.
We talked about being an expert, and something I wanted to ask about was how you went about learning about your culture, because I'm sure it wasn't so much like in school, and that you had to do kind of research ahead of time.
Yeah, like so since this podcast started, we started researching, we started Googling. Like one of the big things that I didn't know about was the Chinese Exclusion Act. Erica we didn't learn about that in school, but Erica said that she had learned about it because she joined a like community in Chinatown in Boston, and they had taught her that stuff. So she kind of had some idea about it, but I had no idea. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but
do an overview.
I listened to that episode, so I did learn a little bit about it, but
was that the first time you heard about it?
Yeah. I never heard about that.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel I'm Asian, and I've never even heard about it.
I mean, I'm not surprised that we didn't learn that in school though, because this is where we live. Like, we get taught the most bullshit history.
Exactly. Like, we get to see the glam, but we never hear about like the stuff that got us to there.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, just do your research, and then you kind of have to figure out like what is actually credible and what's not. Don't just go like on Wikipedia and think that that's like, okay, I know everything now. But we definitely don't know everything, and we just keep reading about stuff. And for me, it's like asking my parents, like actually, because I want to know about my own personal history, and while they're still here, like asking them how they immigrated here. Everybody has a story. It's AAPI month, and I was actually researching things that I could do in this month to see like how I could be more involved in the community. And watching a movie, I watched Joy Luck Club. Have you guys ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I think I've heard of it.
It's like a really
familiar.
old movie. It came out in the 90s. And it's basically about 4 Chinese women who had like a story of how they immigrated here, but they all have Chinese American daughters that don't like their moms. And I definitely relate. Like I have like a really hard relationship with my mom, but watching this movie made me realize like I need to be like, okay, wait, I need to understand how she got to how she is.
Yeah.
Like that's what this movie has taught me, is that like everybody has a story, and you shouldn't just like dismiss them because you don't know their story, right? Like it's like annoying, but just take a step back. Like it's hard, but you know, you just gotta take a step back and just be like, okay, like this person is the way they are because of their experiences, and no 2 people have the same experiences. Like even twins, like they don't have the same 2 experiences. So just like step back and ask questions. Like after watching that movie, I started asking like my aunts and stuff, and that's when I found out that my older aunt, she had an arranged marriage, and I had no idea. Wow. And then I learned more stuff about my family, and I had no idea how they even came to America. Yeah. So it was really cool to have that conversation.
No, that's beautiful. And like, it's crazy because I was just talking about that last night with my friends, just about like how me and my mom used to just not have like a great relationship. And like, I used to like hate her at one point. Like in my mind, I was just like so hateful towards her when I was a little younger. And then like, I just grew and learned more about her past and like everything she's been through, and like accepted it more, and like not accepted but just understood more, you know?
It gives you like context or a perspective. So then you're like, okay, I know why she's acting that way. Exactly. So like let me change my attitude, because I think like with the older generation, they're already like, you know, situated. So it's hard to change them. Like you can't
you can't do it yourself.
You can only control yourself. So that's how I see it.
Exactly. That's something we learn as we grow up. Like seriously, when we're younger, like we think we can change people and like, you know, change their perspectives because we're so close to them or whatever. But like at the end of the day, people need to change themselves. They need to want to. All you can do is like be yourself, set a good example, if anything, you know. Be there for them how you can.
People kind of are who they are. A lot of the early episodes of the podcast kind of had to do with identity, and I wanted to talk about the expectations of Asian parents, because I thought that was a really interesting conversation. Does anything pop up to the top of your head when you think of like expectations of Asian parents?
To get good grades.
Okay.
Be a good person. But we kind of had this conversation yesterday. We went on a hike, and I don't know how we got on the conversation, but we were talking about eating. I said I needed a fast or something like that, and I said because I've been eating so much since I've been here. I was like, I was saying I needed a fast, and I think one of you guys asked like why did I need to do that? But it's more so like growing up, I like exercise a lot now, whereas like when I was growing up, I was fat. That's what we were saying. I said everybody has a fat stage. Like you were fat one point in your life or not. If you aren't fat now, you're gonna get fat. I'm gonna break it to you now. Shaquille. You're gonna get fat at some point. So my fat stage was when I was like in middle school, and I was telling them that it was 7th grade health class for me where I realized how disgusting fast food was, because our health teacher made us scoop lard on like how much was in a Big Mac or a Whopper, French fries, and not that I ate fast food anyways at that point, but like to see the lard that was in it, I was like, that is disgusting. So then I actually stopped eating. Like I ended up having an eating disorder because I was starving myself. Like I would only eat like one like grain of rice basically, and to the point where like my stomach still hurts, like depending on like certain things that I eat. And I had like that whole like body shaming stage where I was really tough on myself, right? But I think that's also kind of like within my culture, like as an Asian girl, like living at home, like if I was too skinny, they would be like, why are you too skinny? You have to eat. But then if I started eating more, they would be like, why are you eating so much? You have to be skinny. So it's like, how do you balance like being like who I am? Like even now when I'm working out so much, they're like, girls should do yoga. Like, you shouldn't be boxing or you shouldn't be lifting or anything. But then I was telling Mahib, like, my dad wants me to be like strong and independent and like help him move stuff. So that's why, like, it kind of motivates me to go to the gym and like lift heavier because I need to do whatever he's asking me of. But then I will talk about this in a little bit, but I'm competing in Miss Massachusetts, and he's like, good thing you're doing that because you'll be more ladylike and more elegant. So it's like you have to balance being like a lady but being like tough at the same time. You know what I mean?
And I think that kind of goes to a unrealistic expectation that all women are put under of like, you need to be these two opposite things. Like, why aren't you doing these two things that are totally opposite at the same time? And like, it's because it's impossible.
Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, everybody has their own beliefs, and we don't have to believe what our parents believe. You know, if we have different beliefs, like, we need to do what makes us feel good. If going to the gym makes you feel good, then that's what you should do. If like eating a fucking Big Mac makes you feel good, then do it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, you know, it's your life. Like, nobody else can like choose your life for you and what you do. So you just need to like stand up for yourself, like we all do. Like, when somebody's trying to like downplay us, talk down on us, and like you like worry about yourself, you know what I mean? Like, you worry about you, I'll worry about me. I'm good. I'm not like a drug addict, like killing myself. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm safe, I'm healthy. Like, you know, it's just, we need to just be more, people need to be more understanding of that in general.
To kind of piggyback off of you, and talking about, that's a conflict that I'm still working with, is doing what makes me happy, but then you also have this like internal struggle of respecting your parents and not obeying them, but like you want to do right by them, right? So it's kind of like, I want to live my life, but like they haven't let go yet, and I'm not I'm not necessarily like ready to like at the end of the day, those are still my parents, and they should accept me for who I am. And but I think it's like you have to constantly prove yourself. And
that's the thing. You
like,
have to just prove yourself.
Like it's like if I'm gonna like if I was to move out here to LA, I'd be like, I'm moving to LA with like nothing, right? They'll be like, that's a bad idea. But like, I really want to go, but like I have to prove to them that when I get to LA, like I have a place to stay, I am gonna get a job, like I have to prove to these things, and then they'll be like, okay, like I get it, like you want to do this for whatever, but like if I was to just go and like have nothing, and they'll be worried the whole time. I think it's more so like they worry about you, but they still need to let you go. But there's like so many internal
to
conflicts.
an extent, that's
like,
parenting. That's like what they're supposed to be doing. That's good parenting.
But not being worrisome, like that's something that all parents need to work on, because that's something that goes on to us, and then we feel bad for them, and it's like all we need to worry about is ourselves. Like we need to respect everybody and do that and show love, but like that's not like not showing love because you're doing what makes you happy, and like it's something that's not going to affect them, like and hurt them. It's just them being in their heads at the end of the day. So it's like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, they'll get over it, they're still going to love you, and then you're going to prove to them that you can do it. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to do it, and like if they want to give you shit, you know, just let it go in one ear, out the other. And because that's what I dealt with my mom, like before I moved out here. And like she would just doubt me, say all like the worst things that could happen, worst case scenarios and whatever. Like, I didn't have that like full support from her. And I wasn't asking anybody for money. Like, I had my money, like I had everything situated that I needed. Like I didn't need anybody. So I was like, I'm doing this. Like, there's nobody holding me back. I'm not worried about these negative things that people are telling me, or I don't need somebody to tell me, good, Tori, like, I'm happy for you, go do it. Like, it's just like not needed, because at the end of the day, like, we need to just make our own decisions to get to our happiness, or else we won't get to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you just gotta like follow your heart, follow your dreams, and like your parents will understand one day. Like they'll understand once you're fucking doing your thing. Like they're gonna be like, okay, like you know, they grew up differently than we did, so that's stuff that we need to like be understanding of, and like not take it personal as like they don't believe in us, because they do. They're just like worrisome.
Yeah, they had a different upbringing. Like, you know, like you work your 9 to 5, you get a house, all that stuff. But like our generation is like, woo, let's just like fly everywhere and just like wander on a mountain and, you know, sing Kumbaya. Like,
and we can. Like, we can do whatever we want now. Like, this is the life. We can choose our life, literally. And like, it's just a beautiful time. And we see it so much. Like, we have social media to like see like how an artist can blow up overnight. Like people can just like get stuff pop, and people can connect on there from other states. Like our parents are like never did that. They weren't on Instagram.
They're on landline.
Exactly. They weren't like connecting with people from across the country, just chatting and like, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it was way different, so it's hard for them to like understand, even though like they know it's a thing now, but it's still hard for them to understand because they didn't experience it. So like at the end of the day, like, you know, you didn't experience what I'm experiencing, so the outcome's not going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to be what I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know? So in one of your episodes, you guys are talking about the history one, and you were talking about not really watching the news, and I was just like, yeah, a lot of people of our generation do not watch the news, and like, why do you feel that way, like about not watching the news, and like other ways that you do find the news, like what's going on in the world and stuff?
Yeah, actually growing up, I watched the news every morning before I went to school. Channel 7, WHGH, that was my jam. But now that I still watch, like if I had to watch the news, that would be my news outlet. But I don't watch the news because I feel like a lot of the news is, I don't want to say fake, but it's not, it's like kind of tailored. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't know all sides of the story. Yeah. So you kind of want to do your research. I feel like nowadays, like everybody gets their news off of social media. So that's exactly what had happened about the Asian hate crimes. Is that's how I found out, is through social media. And that's when I was curious, because you know everything on social media is like, you know, 10, 15 seconds, and you're like, oh, okay, now I want to look that up more. Yeah. So that's kind of how I do it. Everybody's different, but I don't listen to the news because it's depressing as
it is.
You know what I mean? As fudge. Yeah. I'm just like, why? Like
super negative. Like they don't ever talk about anything good that's going on. It's like, oh, well, this person just got hit by a car and killed. And
yeah, exactly.
Then next story, this person like killed their children. And then it's like, okay, we don't need to know that. Like we don't, there's like shit that they feed us that we don't need to know. It's not good for us to even like know this stuff, you know. It would be better off we don't. Like we know what's going on, we already know that, but we don't need to know the details. And there's a lot that's just like one-sided, like you were saying, and you know, like our generation doesn't care to hear this like these boring people talking on TV. Like we want something a little more entertaining. So I love that there's so many cool different pages that of people getting news out, and like they'll even make their own graphics and make it more visually appealing and like just something more for our generation to actually pay attention to, because we do need to know what's going on in the world, of course. Like it's important because there's certain things we can help with changing, you know, just like the Stop Asian Hate, like, you know, what you guys started doing, and like learning more about your history and like educating yourself, and then just being able to like understand more what's going on and like how wrong it is and how we need to like have a voice in the matter, you know?
Yeah. It comes back to education, no matter what. Like whether you could be educated on the wrong things, but you have to educate yourself.
Yes, you have to educate yourself. You don't just like believe what people are saying, and that's something that a lot of Americans do. They watch the news, they believe everything they hear, and then they just try to school people on it, and it's like, okay, where'd you hear that? Oh, the news. Okay. Like,
yeah,
great.
And
like,
we live in an awesome generation where like there's hashtags, there's like you said, so many different pages that you can go out and you can get enough information to get yourself curious to actually like read more about it, and that's when you educate yourself, and then you can establish your own thoughts on
exactly.
Awareness is at an all-time high. But we segued into Stop Asian Hate, and I kind of wanted to ask you about how you've seen that, how it's affected you in your home life and at the workplace.
Yeah, so the whole Stop Asian Hate movement, we haven't, for me personally, I haven't really experienced that, or I never really put it together. Like there was obviously a lot of microaggressions, and I didn't even know what microaggressions were until, if you listen to one of our podcasts called Microaggressions, it's like something as little as like, oh, where are you from? And then when you're like, I'm from Boston, they're like, no, like, where are you from? Like, you mean like those are microaggressions. And I never really knew that was wrong. Like those little things kind of add up to like the overall problem. And so like just learning more about these things and thinking about it in a perspective that, you know, those could be my parents that it happened to. So just educating myself and seeing how we can support this community and bringing awareness to the situation is really important. And like in terms of workplace, I think it's hard. I think diversity, inclusion, and belonging is a very hard topic for workplaces. Especially, I feel like it all started, like, I'll just talk about my own work experience. I'm not going to say where I work, but you know, like they are always reactive instead of proactive. And I think that really bothers me. And finding a place where you're very supported in who you are is like very keen. Yeah. But, you know, like at the start of the pandemic, it was George Floyd, right? So then it was like everybody was jumping on this Black Lives Matter movement. But the thing is like Black people have been dealing with this for years, right? Like, you know, like forever. But in that immediate moment, everyone's like, oh my God, I have to do everything to figure out how I can be anti-racist. But then now at work, there's no talk. Like there's nothing. It was just like in that one moment. And then the next thing that happened was the shooting in Atlanta. But it's funny because I had brought up at my work that there were crimes that were happening in San Francisco, or when I first got aware of it, and was like, you know, this is what's happening in San Francisco. There's like elderly people being attacked, and they were like, what are you talking about? And they did not share it. And it was not until the Atlanta shooting where somebody in the diversity, inclusion, and belonging group that I belong to was like, it probably goes without saying we should have a support group for the Asian community, right? And it was like they had no sensitivity to like other things that were happening either. And like that's like my main point, is that I feel like my organization is very reactive, not proactive. So what I've been doing is I'm trying to have conversations where we are constantly having conversations. It doesn't have to just be about like Asian people, Black people. Like there are people who need to be educated. I don't know anything about Irish people, Italian people. Like they probably came through some type of adversity. Like everybody has gone through something, you know? Like I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but everybody has experiences and they go through them, and that's who they are. And without that education or without that background or awareness, we're never ever gonna be like this. You know what I mean? Like just like listening to your story, I can understand you a lot better than, you know, I don't know his story. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a different story, and you have to listen to people's stories before you like pass judgment.
Exactly. Everybody's going through something. Like nobody's going through something that's like worse than you or whatever. Like everybody's going through something, and like we need to show more love and less hate. Like there's just a lot of negativity that just gets projected, and it's like it's not always personal either. Like it's a lot of projecting other people's like feelings onto other people. You know what I mean? Like people will be insecure about something and just project it onto somebody else, but they don't even mean it. You know what I mean? They're just projecting how they feel. And like once you kind of realize that too, it like kind of makes you more understanding and less like, oh, I want to fight this person because they don't believe what I believe or whatever. You're just like, well, I can educate them and like let them know, and like if we don't connect, then like cool, but like there has to be respect. Like that's number one. Like you have to treat others with respect. Like no matter what they look like or whatever, like it's just something that this society is like lacking, is just showing more love and understanding.
Big time. And I think something else on the topic is this shared experience. A lot of people who are immigrants to the United States, first or second generation, have this shared experience. And we were on that hike yesterday that we mentioned earlier, and we got on the topic of how everyone in our friend group had a second name that they were using in various ways, and this was very much an American name that they were using to get by. So anytime I go and order food from like a takeout place and they say, oh, what's your name? I'll say David. And so do you want to talk about second names?
It's so funny because I was talking to my aunt who is from Hong Kong, and then she actually went to college at UCLA, and she's very like forward thinking. She's very modern. And we were talking about names because she was like, what are you going to talk about on the podcast? And I said, oh, we mentioned about second names. And she goes, oh, you mean my American name? Because she goes, my American name is Grace.
Wow.
And I was like, that's so funny because she's like,
it's crazy though. So like, why do you think that is? Is it because people like won't know how to say it, or like you think people won't want to try to like pronounce it right, or like what do you think it is? Like, because I think it should be like, I think that's fucked up. I think it's sad like that you can't tell people your real name because you feel like they're gonna like say it wrong or whatever, instead of like being like, nah, you have to learn my name, this is my name, this is how you say it, like pronounce it, you know. Like it's like people are just so careless to just not like learn how to pronounce something as if it's like that hard, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like it goes back to identity.
Yeah.
I think it goes to fitting in a little bit too. Like the immigrant doesn't want
yeah,
to
but
cause
it's
problems
sad
in
that
this
that's
new
a
country.
thing, you know
They
what I'm
wanna
saying? Like,
fit in. Can you talk about your like real name and like where it came from, and not where it came from, but like your American name, Tiffany.
Yeah.
And you go by that. You use that. That's on your birth certificate, you were saying. What is your other name?
My other name is Poi Man, which is
Poi Man.
Yeah, Poi Man. Nobody
That's
really.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is really beautiful.
It
means like something like very elegant and special, and like jade. It's like very expensive.
Like
like
this
the
is
Tiffany
my point
store
right here. Like that's beautiful, and like there's meaning to your name and everything. And then like Tiffany, it's like it's a beautiful name too. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it's just an American name that means nothing. You know what I mean? And like it just shows how like this country is like not big on individualism. Like they don't want people to be themselves. Like they want they want everybody to be the same, and like I don't know. It's just like sad.
There's progress to be made. Yeah,
there is
it really
progress
feels that
to be
way.
made for real, and like it's being made, of course, but like little things like that, you know, like that's something that needs to be worked on. And like,
well, I also think it's
but it's not like, it's more on like the Americans side, you know what I mean? Like Americans being like, okay, like I'm gonna learn this person's name, this is how to pronounce it, that's what I'm gonna call them, you know what I mean? Like
I also think it's kind of like, as an American, like you don't want to say the wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. Like, so it kind of goes both ways.
No,
because,
of course, but it should be like if I say it wrong, then they can correct me, and then like I'll say it right. You know
but
what I mean?
The funny thing is like, so I'll say, my name is Tiffany, but a lot of people call me Stephanie. But I just like don't really care, so I don't correct them. So like they're
So you're on your third name.
Yeah, so like everybody just like, there was one couple that had been calling me Stephanie since I was very little, and I graduated from high school, and they had looked at my yearbook, and they were looking for me. And then they finally found me and they're like, your name is Tiffany? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, why have you not corrected me? Like, they've been calling me this for like 15 years. And I was like, I don't know. I just didn't have the heart to like, I was little. Like, I was like, I don't care. But like, at this point, I'm like, no, like, I should have like said, like, now when people say Stephanie, I'm like, no, it's like Tiffany. Yeah. Well, like you were talking about, it's because, well, your name is unique, but people just spell it wrong. And you said that you do that because you get tired of correcting people.
If I'm going into like Starbucks, what's your name? Mahib. Okay. It sounds like it has an E in it and it doesn't. And so we can say, like, from an efficiency perspective, we can save like a couple minutes on this whole transaction by me saying it's David. You know how to spell and type David, and now we're done.
But I understand that like 100%, but it's not being progressive.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not going to like change the fact. You know what I mean? Like if we keep like letting it be like that, it's never going to, like, people aren't going to, like, if you want to name your kid fucking,
what is that?
I don't
Elon
know,
Musk, like with the dollar signs and at
symbols,
like
the new characters.
Who knows?
That exist.
Like, I don't know. I think it's just like,
I think we should
part of our
embrace
identity,
that
like,
individuality
so big.
for sure. Because I really like my name.
I was just gonna say, so are you gonna start ordering not as
individuality.
David? Are you gonna start?
I can do that.
Yeah,
that's easy.
See, you're
and
one step moving forward in the progression.
No, I really think that's like something that could just be more normalized eventually if like we all work towards it.
I think that's like my whole thing is that we just gotta normalize everything, right? Like normalize having uncomfortable conversations so that it becomes normal.
And that's right. Like, that's the hurdle.
That's like, I think that's like the whole thing about this podcast is like we don't want to exclude anybody. Like we are talking from our experiences as an Asian American or an Asian or a Chinese, whatever it is that we identify with, like we're just sharing our experiences, whether you like it or not, like that's okay. Everybody has their own opinions, but like we hope to inspire, like this is the reason why we like started it, is that we wanted to find things out about ourselves. So we're just trying to figure out who we are, and it's a journey. So you can start from the beginning and follow us along, but it's like looking at who you are and focusing on finding yourself, and we want to inspire other people to find who they are and, you know, seek your whole truth. Like it's okay. Like I never thought that I could just like be so content with who I am. Like I always feel like before I had to have some type of problem with me, right? But no, like once you fully embrace yourself, you're like, wow, I'm freaking dope. Like I'm seriously, like I'm Asian, I'm Chinese, I am an American, like I'm all these things, but not one of that. Like that's who I am. Like that makes who I am. And I think like we just like listening to you, it's like you can relate to us. Listening to you, you can relate to us too. It's like it doesn't just have to be specifically about Asian things, but like just like figure out who you are and just like find the beauty in that.
It's beautiful. I love that. I love that you guys started it and you're like all learning together, like you're looking up things and like being like, okay, well, what do you think about this? Like I liked how you all had your own opinion about certain subjects, and that's how we learn. Like it's a good way to like learn with other people, because sometimes it could be hard to just like learn things by ourselves, sit down like we're at school or something or whatever. Like sometimes we can just be like drifting off or whatever, but if like you're doing it in a group and you're like, we have to read this, we have to talk about it, you're really gonna do it. You know, you're gonna push yourself more.
And they like share their, like Erica and Tiff do an awesome job sharing their opinions, because I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it like that. So just listening to everybody's different perspectives, and obviously like some of us are similar and some of us are different, but like we're all so unique, and that's what makes us who we are.
That's beautiful. That's something I'm big on too, is just staying unique and authentic to yourself, true to yourself. And like that's why we started this too, like to inspire people and like hear different people's perspectives of how they grew up, what they've been through, like stuff that's more like inspiring, not just like, oh, tell me about this and that. Like we want to know like all the details, like how do you really feel, like you know, and it just inspires people more hearing all different like perspectives, all different stories, and like knowing they can do it too, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I wanted to ask you about everything that's associated to the pageant and how that's helped you being in pageantry and helped you finding yourself.
Well, I don't know. Well, you know me long enough. We just met. But like, I'm not very girly girl, and I'm rough around the edges. Like, the other day I went to Shaq's house, and the minute we got in, I broke his picture frame on his wall. So, that's just an example of how I am. Like, I just like to punch things. I like to
I remember you punching me yesterday.
Yeah, like all these things.
Towards the end of our hike, you were annoyed, and we were.
I was like, "Where's the car?" And then
you said in one of your podcasts, I'm pretty sure it was you that said it, that you're like super close with your dad.
Yeah,
and like you guys like talk a lot, like about all different things, and like. That makes a lot of sense that you have a lot of masculine energy, you know, like, and you're trying to tap more into your feminine energy, because a guy needs feminine and masculine, a woman needs masculine and feminine. We need a balance of both. So
I didn't even think about it like that.
That's literally what you're doing. You're literally tapping more into your feminine energy, pushing yourself to try to get into it, and I think that's a dope way to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I've never done sorry, microphone. I've never done any pageantry before. Never. Like, I wear heels. I like to dress up, but like I don't know anything about makeup. Like, when it comes to my hair, I just wash it. Like, I just started brushing my hair during the quarantine. It's like gross right now. It's always in a clip, and
beautiful.
So I didn't learn about that stuff, but the reason why I got into it was I have very vivid dreams. One night I had a dream about like a miss something. It just kept coming up in my dream. So the next day, I don't Google my dreams, but for whatever reason that day, something told me to Google it. So I Googled it, and the first thing that came up was like Miss Massachusetts, and the age requirements. I was like wondering like what it took to become like in Miss Massachusetts. So that, you know, like you have to be single, like you can't have kids, never been married.
You have to be single?
Yeah, because it's Miss. Like, there's like Mrs. pageants. Something that I also just found out. There's like little kid competitions, and then there's like Miss, meaning like you're a single young woman. Then there's like Mrs. and Mr. competitions, and I just found out that people are competing on these until they're like 60 years old.
Wow.
So this whole world is very different for me. So, you know, like I've been shopping around for the perfect heels, for the perfect swimsuit, the evening gown, and it has like this stigma that, you know, like you're going to do a pageant and you're being put up there and people are judging you, like, right? But for me, it's not really like that. I think it's about confidence, right? So when you go up there, I feel like there's a different sense of confidence, and I want to inspire other people like that. This is not me. This is not who I am. But I'm confident enough to go up there, and I feel like win or lose, like I'm still a winner because I'm doing something that's not in my comfort zone. I like learned how to do my makeup. I hired a coach. I now know how to walk. Like I'm gonna like just finding like clothes that make me feel comfortable and showcasing that, right? It's more about like my confidence that's more important than anything else. So I'm just like trying to like, that's like who I am, trying to figure out like this is going to be a part of my journey, right? It's my experience. So that adds on to the like who I am as a whole. But I think I'm doing it for the sense of doing something out of your comfort zone. Push yourself and, you know, feel confident in the skin you're in, right? Like at the beginning of this, I was like, I'm not going to do this without makeup. I'm not going to do this without like anything. Like I'm just going to go up there and just be who I am, right? But as like I'm learning through like pageantry, it, and through this podcast actually is like it talks about like your public speaking, right? Like the podcast has helped me take out my likes and ums and be more polished when I'm speaking. You know, the whole like learning how to walk, it's like I actually feel taller like from walking because you have to like pull your shoulders back, and like it's just like this level of like being comfortable with your body, and then just finding clothes that make you flattering is different too. Like all of this is like just finding more things
different
about
energy,
myself, right?
Different vibes.
Like, and then it kind of goes back to like, you know, how you said there's a balance, right? I can do both. I can be girly and I can be badass at the same time. So that's more so like why I'm doing that. And I
love that.
Awesome.
I think that's so beautiful.
And best of luck.
That's such a
it's
good
gonna
idea.
be so interesting to hear about how it goes.
I know. I feel I'm not thinking that I'm gonna lose, but I'm not thinking that I'm gonna win either. But I'm thinking that I'm a winner anyways.
Yeah, you're doing this
for myself.
You're
Like
getting
I'm
a lot
not
of value
really
out of it.
I'm not really doing it for like to
For
win
prize,
anything. Like it's
you're
just
doing it to learn and like get out of your comfort zone and like
And
find yourself more, and that's something we need to do. We need to get out of our comfort zone to like learn and experience different things and really find ourselves. We have to do that. So big ups to you. Good luck.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And I love their mission is like empowering women to be more confident. So, you know, like I'm always I do it to all my girlfriends and where I'm like hyping them up. Like and I hype you up. I hype you up all the time.
That's a fact.
I hype everybody up. Like I feel like, you know, when you were younger, you wanted to have a lot of friends, right? Like, and then now that I'm growing up, it's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of friends. And I genuinely feel like everybody around me is like-minded and wants to aspire to be great, right?
Yeah.
So like I feed off of that energy. So like I've learned a lot from you guys both already, just like in here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We're always learning on this podcast. Like I always feel so inspired after, so good after talking to people that I don't even know that much, and like we all just connect so well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
I'm
awesome.
happy to have you on.
Yeah, I'm
Appreciate you.
Appreciate
you. I mean, like we made it happen. Just
I
kind of
know.
like out
it
of
was
whim,
so
too.
like it was very.
You were
whimsical.
looking at me at lunch.
I looked at. I was
yesterday.
like, "What are you talking about?
What are you thinking about?" And I'm like, "Actually, I'm thinking of having you on my podcast tomorrow."
That was really funny. He was like off look. I was like, "What do you think?" That's my favorite question to ask people. Is like, "What are you thinking right now?" Right? But he was like literally like in thought. We were eating Mexican food, Two Madres. If you have not been there, go to Two Madres.
Big shout out.
But yeah, he was just looking on like in space or something, and I was like, "What did you thinking?" And then all of a sudden, he's like, I was not expecting his answer to be that. So I really wish the girls were here to join the conversation. So future episode,
Of course, but future episode for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come on to ours.
Hell yeah. So where can people find your podcast? Shout it out one more time.
Yeah, you can find us on all major streaming services: Spotify, Apple Music, Anchor, iHeartRadio. Just Google us. Hashtag.
We'll put your link on here in the description.
In the bio.
Yeah,
Asian
right here,
Girl
wherever
Squad.
they
Asian
put
Girl
it.
Squad.